And welcome back, everybody. Again, for those who don't remember, my name's Roddy, and you may notice that Landy's not with me today. She had to stay and watch Louie, but we're very excited. We have to do this interview. We have our guest today, Claire,
Hello.
and she is a gallery owner here in Puerto Vallarta. And I don't want to give too much of the details. I'll let her introduce herself and kind of go from there. So, Claire, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I've been here 41 years. My husband and I started with Italian restaurants. He was Italian.
Wow.
Very successful, but we decorated with art, and everyone wanted to buy our art. And some of it was valuable, some of it wasn't, but it set the theme for our restaurant. So most of it was classical. And when we decided that the 20-some-hour days for almost 8 years was a little much, we decided that maybe we should do something else. So we decided to do the gallery. We thought if we just start with things that we love, and people like them, then we'll have success. And through the years, it grew into 60 artists, at one point 65 artists. So now we're the largest gallery in Puerto Vallarta and the third oldest.
Wow.
Yep.
And you said when you had your restaurant, it was your art. Did you mean like your own personal art that you all did, or just artists
Just art
that
we
would
collected.
Are you collected?
Yeah, collected. Some of it was roadside antique stores, and that was probably our most special piece. It was a chalkware bust. If you've ever seen chalkware busts, they're actually made of chalk.
Okay.
But to this day, and it was from the turn of the century, it's still pristine.
Nice.
And I don't do anything to protect it. But we were offered at one point $4,000, and we paid $100 for it.
Oh.
So we thought, hey, you know what? We don't want to sell it,
Right.
but maybe we can put in things we like.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how it started, with just things we liked.
Okay. And obviously we'll get more into the art gallery real quick, but and that was one of the first things that when we talked to you the first time was when you said you've been here in Puerto Vallarta 41 years. We knew we had to interview because we're new and we've interviewed a few people, but most have been here 1 year, 2 years. I think the longest is 3 years, and a couple of Mexican citizens who moved away and came back. But we heard American. I'm sorry, I never asked.
I'm Canadian.
Canadian.
My husband was American.
And American, and who've been here so long. We had what a perspective. I'm sure you've seen so many things, maybe that how have progressed and changed for better or for worse.
And both, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll probably get into that a little bit later. So you're from Canada, and so were you already married when you came to Mexico, and what brought you all to Mexico?
I just wanted change. I actually had really wanted to go in design when I graduated from school, but there was 5 in my graduating class, small town, farm, country. So I went to something totally different, renewable resources, which I loved. I loved being out in the bush, and I love statistics, so I majored in forestry. And then I got into computers, by luck, I guess. And I didn't really like the job, but it was good money.
I bet.
And at one point, I got seniority, so I was working for 6 hours a week and getting paid for 40.
Wow.
So I was bored.
Okay.
And I thought I needed a challenge. So I never really took a vacation. My second job, I had 2 jobs at the same time. My second job was working for a stained glass studio.
Okay.
And I really liked that creative part of it. But I just thought I needed a change. And so someone convinced me to take a vacation. I hadn't taken a vacation in 9 years. And we came here, and I thought, why not? I didn't speak a word of Spanish. I thought, people are friendly. It's a little bit country, a little bit town, city. And that was 41 years ago. So I went home, I sold everything and said, why not? I'm bored with my job. To me, it's not going anywhere.
Sure.
And the money wasn't the most important thing to me. I wanted a challenge. So I moved to Mexico, and I'm still here.
And were you with your husband, or you came
No,
by
we met
yourself?
here.
Oh, you met here. Okay, so you came by yourself.
Yep.
Even a bigger challenge.
Yeah, probably. Although now I think, then it's safe, still safe. It's still very safe. But then it was a small town safe.
Sure.
Where you could go anywhere, any hour of the night. You could go for a walk at 6 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. It was safe.
Wow.
And yeah.
So that was, I'm trying to put the math together. I'm probably wrong. 82. Okay, I was right. 1982.
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned that. So obviously Puerto Vallarta has grown quite a bit in that time. What are some of the changes that you've seen? Let's start with the better. What have you seen that get better over the time?
People may argue it's cleaner in the sense that there was no public washrooms before. So I think it's cleaner now because there's a lot more businesses, and people are more conscious of keeping their businesses clean and outside their businesses clean. So I think it's more gentrified.
Okay.
So I think that's a positive. And there's a whole new group of people here from all over the world that are wanting to make it better. We have the Garden Club. The Garden Club, if you don't know what that is, they raise money to put in planters, plant plants and plant trees and bougainvilleas, and they've just redone the park in the garden. You've got the girl who did the mosaics in the park, Natasha, which are wonderful.
Yeah, they're very nice.
Yeah, and then so the garden club also helped plant plants there, and they're very proactive in beautifying the city.
Nice.
So we have a lot of people who've come here to help. You know.
Okay. And so, what about on the reverse side? Have you seen things, maybe have gone down in a way, or anything has maybe gotten worse in 40 years? In your opinion,
every day there's growing pains. Sure. Every city goes through that. So what is possibly was wrong 2 years ago is not wrong today. Something that today we were frustrated with. I would have liked to seen the city respect more of the old building laws and not make so many high modern towers. I think they could have done it better. I think the city could have been a little less greedy and made it more conscious of keeping some of the what they call charm, but they never thought Vallarta had the charm. No. We did have charm. Yeah. They could have left certain things a certain way. So when we've built, we try to keep it a lot of the old hacienda look and be conscious of that. We've kept the green gardens, which other people could have kept. I would have liked to seen more rules followed, and that would be the only negative, but I understand too. I mean, there's more places people want to be here. Why are we growing so fast? Because Vallarta is special, and people want to be here, and we can't really knock that.
Accommodate everybody, right? As I'm sure. So when have you, if you were to kind of maybe put a time period, when did you see kind of this exponential growth in Puerto Vallarta? Maybe some people may want to say, when have you seen more foreigners kind of come in? I don't know if that's...
No, I think there was a big change 10 years ago, maybe even 15, maybe not quite that much. It's kind of hard because, as you live in it, you don't go out.
Sure.
And we don't leave the city much. So I think it was, say, 10 years. And then again, maybe in the last 5 years, mostly those are the two
kind of time periods.
But we used to see 1985, things started to change. And then 1995, there was probably every 10 years we've seen a boom. But it's been a faster boom in the last 10 years.
Okay. And so you mentioned you had the restaurant and you already had some art pieces. And so what were some growing pains? How did you go about opening art gallery? I mean, what was, were there certain steps you have to go through? Is there kind of the bureaucracy that most people might imagine? Because I'm assuming that maybe it's like that with most businesses, or...
Well, going back to the restaurant. So when we opened the restaurant, there was very few restaurants in town. So, and there was very few buildings. In 1988, they built the first condos on our beach here. Okay. Most of them were built, I think, 6 stories. So they didn't really go, overbuild. A lot of those condo owners wanted to support. Timeshare was also very good for the city. Yeah. Very good for the city. What people didn't realize, that people just didn't eat in their condos. They went out, So it supported all the business. It started with restaurants and it led into, at the time we closed our restaurant in 1995, we closed the restaurant. We were the only, it was all restaurants, this block. We, I think, had maybe, at one point, maybe 17 restaurants. There was a lot of restaurants.
More.
And just this block.
Yeah.
So when we closed our restaurant, it was at a high point. We were doing 350 dinners a night.
Wow.
And we just closed cold turkey and said, as of May 31st, we're not reopening it as a restaurant. And we went into gallery immediately. So a lot of the clients waiting in line in restaurants immediately became clients in our gallery, waiting for dinner reservations, waiting for the lineups at these restaurants. They came and looked at the gallery. And we still lived in the property. So it was like our home. They were, some people still came back for a drink. It was just...
So is this your property? And you live here on
Not anymore. We don't live on site, no.
Oh, okay.
Now we do a lot of weddings and events. So we added on the second floor. We were all one floor before. Okay. And we lived in the restaurant and lived in the gallery for the first many years. I think 2013 is when we put on the second floor. So it was all one floor before.
Also not too long ago.
With really high ceilings.
Yeah.
And then the third floor, this rooftop garden, was added to do weddings and events.
Okay, and it's very nice up there. I'm sure you'll see in the video. It's very nice up here. I could definitely see that. Yeah. And so what about trying to grow, growing your collection? I mean, how did that go about? I mean, I know you mentioned you had some artists.
It was just kind of the same way that our restaurant opened. The second day we opened our restaurant, we did lineups around the block. Alaska Airlines employees found us, and they started announcing on the plane, "Come to our favorite restaurant." So it was great. And then the gallery, kind of the same way. People just word of mouth, and that's how our one artist brought in another artist, who brought in another artist, and our whole gallery grew by recommendation of other artists.
And so, what do you think made it so special that people were so willing to kind of spread word of mouth and bring people in?
I think we try to make the place welcoming. I don't want to reject anybody from coming in. We
Sure.
allow students to come in. We allow. I want people to feel like it still feels like they're home. We want to what? We want to give them service. We try to give them service. I think that's what's not that it makes us different than anybody else. Um, there's many great galleries in this town, and every gallery has one or two great artists. I feel because we have the space, we're the largest gallery, that we can have more good artists.
Yeah, I know the first time we met, you had an artist up here painting.
Oh yes,
And,
Efren.
yeah, and so do artists just come in and they just kind of use this as a studio or as inspiration or a little bit of both?
Well, Efren likes to paint here because he has a large following.
Okay.
And quite often he gets commissions. And while he's painting up here during dinner, he gets commissions. He now will paint less this year because he's now very, very busy. Now that COVID's over, during COVID, he could come 5, 6 times a year, spend a couple weeks paint here.
Okay.
Now he'll probably be down to maybe 2 or 3 times a year that he'll paint here.
Okay. Yeah. And where's he based out of?
He's based out of Ajijic.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But he's going on, I think, a 4-month tour starting at the end of this month. He'll be in Canada, U.S., giving classes and painting.
Oh, okay.
Then he'll come back here in December to paint, and then he'll teach here. I can't remember, it's February, March for a week.
So you even offer art classes?
Yep.
Oh, nice. And the artists come in and they offer the art classes. Yep. And is that, I don't know if it's too personal a question as far as financially. Do the artists keep the money? Is it a share?
Oh, for the art classes, they get 100% of the money.
Oh, nice.
I just give them the space, and they
Oh, see, and I think that's also a nice incentive, and I think possibly why people like to come here because nice incentive like that they get to keep everything. I know. I'm again guessing. Maybe other places, maybe they kind of split or.
I think they do, but it's not like it's happening all the time. I have 2 or 3 artists that give classes here. It's not like every artist gives a class here, and it's just kind of a nice additional thing to offer.
Okay, and so as far as you've been here in Mexico 41 years, I know you did mention earlier that you don't travel out too much, but what are some other places in Mexico that you've been to that you enjoy?
Actually, I work all the time.
You work all the time, so you really don't get to leave Puerto Vallarta that much.
I don't leave much, but also partly because of health reasons. We didn't get to travel much the last 20 years.
Oh, okay.
So the last big vacation we took as a family was in 2006.
Okay.
That's the last vacation.
Here in Mexico?
No, Italy.
Italy. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe we can ask the question or frame it. Where do you, if you could travel, where would you like to have go? So maybe somewhere you haven't gone to that you would kind of wish you would.
I would love to see Puebla.
Okay.
I also love antiques, so I love to see Puebla. I have good friends in Mexico City, artists, and would love to go spend a day with them. Going through all the antique markets.
Oh yeah.
There's lots. There's a lot of places I recommend. I always recommend Mexico City for people to see when they ask because it has more museums than anywhere in the world.
Okay, yeah, I know that. I mean, well, I didn't know they had more than anywhere in the world. I know they have a lot of museums. We love it there.
Yeah.
We've been there 3 times since the last 5-6 years, and we've always enjoyed it. So many things to do there.
I mean, I've driven through Queretaro and Aguascalientes and San Luis Potosí, and from border town, like from Laredo to Vallarta, from Nogales to Vallarta. So I've been to a few places. I've been to Mazatlan.
Okay.
But I've not been to. I really am more into history and culture, so I'd like to see some of those places. But then I also, when we have vacation, I want to leave and I want to go to Italy.
Yeah. And Italy is great too. I mean, obviously, being in the art sphere, Italy's a great place to go. What did you do in Italy? Did you all go see some of the art galleries?
Just a lot of friends in Italy. My husband was Italian. We spent a lot of time. Our vacation away was Italy, and then even in Italy, we started running into people we knew. My daughter would run into people from college. She'd go, "I didn't know you were coming," and we'd run into people from Vallarta that we didn't know were coming.
Really?
Yeah.
Small world in that respect.
And it's too the same thing. The reasons I love Mexico, the culture, the food, the people, is the same reason we love Italy. I mean, I live this every day.
Right.
So people say, why don't you go to San Miguel if you love Italy? I'm going, no. If I love Italy, I'm going to Italy. I want to smell the same smells, the reasons people come to Mexico.
Right.
I want the same smells I remember of Italy. I want to go to the same shops, the same streets. It's hard to add new things to your list. People who've been coming to Mexico for years, it's hard for them to add a new restaurant or a new place because they're so used to going to the same places. And we're the same way when we go to Italy.
Yeah.
It's hard to, we always base ourselves in Florence for 5 weeks. And from there, you're 2 hours from Venice, 2 hours from Rome, and then you can do other little day trips to Assisi. And so I really know more about Italy than I know about Mexico.
And so I know you said you met your husband here. again, that must in itself be an interesting story. I mean, how did that happen? I mean, being from American, Italian, Canadian.
It was so strange. He grew up in the restaurant business,
Hmm.
but he also started. I don't know if his art collection started until he was in his 20s and started traveling and making money, but he started collecting coins at age of 8.
Oh, okay.
And he sold his first American penny at the age of 11 for $300 and some dollars.
Okay.
So that's, and then his passion grew into ancient coins.
Ah,
So that's a form of sculpture.
sure.
And so he started collecting at an early age. I started collecting when I was 17, and our daughter started collecting when she was 13, because we've all kind of now inspired her. She has a huge collection. She loves art, and she's an artist.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she, you said she's based here in Puerto Vallarta also?
Yep. Born and
Okay.
raised.
Born and raised.
Mhm.
And so is some of her collection here as well?
Yes.
Nice. And so what are the recommendations? We're talking about Puerto Vallarta, kind of going back to that aspect. Other recommendations for people who may be visiting Puerto Vallarta. What else would you recommend people visit? Like other galleries
it
or the
depends
places?
how much time they have.
Sure.
That's the thing. Quite often, I've had a lot of people the last couple of weeks that come in and go, "What would you recommend?" And I find out they're leaving the next day. Like, I'm thinking, like what is a must see before I leave? I go, "When are you leaving?" Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, I always like to send people, if they like to walk, to Conchas Chinas Beach.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can walk to the end of this beach, go through the rocks, and there's this rock mountain. You go through the rock mountain, and on the other side is little cul-de-sacs of beach
Okay.
and lava rock, and it's gorgeous. It's very romantic, and if you don't have much time, that's a nice day
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah. We walked over there. Very beautiful.
Yeah,
It's just
very
very
beautiful.
scenic.
It's very scenic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a little more private, because you don't see joggers, and you don't see a lot of vendors.
Right.
So it's quiet. I think the botanical gardens is also
Okay.
a must. If you have quite a bit of time, I think some of the little mountain towns like El Tuito, San Sebastian, Mascota, Talpa, they're all really, I think, more a sense of rural Mexico, but in a very colonial way.
Okay. Right. I've heard of Mascota. I haven't heard of the other ones.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe have you been to the little towns around yourself personally?
Yes, yeah, a lot of, yeah.
So again, let's frame it in that way.
Mhm.
If someone was only here for a day or two of those, maybe which one would you say this is the one you must? I know it's always hard because it's always very personal.
San Sebastian is very historic. So a lot
Okay.
of people like to go there. They have coffee. They have. They're starting to get wineries up in that area now
Okay.
as well. A lot of the tequila, but it's very historic. So it's always gone to. But if you had more time, just past San Sebastian, there's Talpa and Mascota. And Mascota has the wonderful old, beautiful colonial buildings, and some of them have been turned into coffee shops, bed and breakfast. But I think you'd need at least you'd want to spend a day or two overnight. But you could do, if you landed, say, in Mascota, you could do day trips to, it's like they're very close to Mascota, Mascota to Talpa and San Sebastian.
Okay.
But a lot of people just get to San Sebastian because it's about an hour, probably about an hour and a half to get there.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
up in the mountains. It's cooler.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would imagine most people who come to Puerto Vallarta, especially, it seems to be kind of catered to more like the adventure. Let's go to the zip lines. Let's go out to the banana boats and parachuting, and so it's always nice to kind of see, like you said, the more cultural side of it.
Yeah.
Because I think for people who come on short vacations, I think sometimes they do maybe not avoid it. They just don't go see the cultural side of Mexico because, as we both know, living here, Mexico has so much more to offer.
Yeah.
Culturally, historically, there's so much neat stuff out there.
It's great, and there's great trips. I mean, tequila, the town of Tequila has grown so much. The last time I was there was probably 1983, and then it was just very simple, and now it's really a tourist destination.
Right.
It's lovely. Guadalajara is lovely, but I think you need a couple days.
Oh yeah.
And Guadalajara has so much history.
Yeah.
But if you only had a day, then I would go to Tlaquepaque for the day. They're making it more convenient with better air flights and better air prices, so people could actually fly there for the day. It's 25 minutes.
You can fly from here to there?
Guadalajara, 25 minutes.
Yeah, so
you can do a lot more if you fly. Yeah.
It kind of throws me off because when you look on the map, it's so close. But then I always remember when people talk about driving there, it's very windy and very slow.
It used to be 8-10 hours. Now they cut it down to 5 hours. Pretty soon it's supposed to be. Yeah, so it's getting better.
Right.
But I'd still fly.
Yeah, it's like a pocket. We've actually been there. It's very, very cute.
Yeah.
For those who may not be familiar, it's considered a Pueblo Mágico, right? And it's almost like a suburb of Guadalajara, I would say.
Yeah.
Right. They're pretty much connected. And very neat, very historical, very beautiful, small little
Yeah.
Like a kind of little colonial
Beautiful
feel.
boutique, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We always enjoyed being there. Um, excuse me. So I guess maybe moving on, because I know we talked a lot about business and art and everything, and I know sometimes a lot of our viewers, they like to watch because in our channel, you're not familiar with,
Yeah.
we kind of talk a lot about like spending and daily living. Maybe in a month, living here, someone wants to come to Puerto Vallarta. What might they expect to spend? Kind of for your average living.
Oh, it's hard to say that now because it really depends on where someone wants to be.
Sure.
I mean,
let's take rent out of it because I know rent could be a big part of it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you can eat out well. I mean, I still love taco stands. I mean, I'd have a hard time to sit down in a restaurant and eat a taco because I love taco stands.
Oh yeah. Have you been to the fish taco stand down the street around the corner?
Marissima or which one?
The block before. We went to Marissima. There's like the block before Marissima.
Oh, no.
Go to the left. And, oh my gosh.
What's it called?
I think it's called the fish taco stand.
Oh.
When I look it on the map, that's what it's called.
Okay.
Yeah. Give that one a shot. Yeah. It's very good.
I mean, I think a lot of people are afraid to eat Mexican food because they think it's supposed to be spicy, but Mexican food's not spicy. It's what they put on it that's spicy.
True.
I mean, it's pretty healthy home cooking for the most part.
I think for the most part, yeah. And I think another thing, I even heard somebody talking about this today at the resort. They were talking about going out and stuff, and they always have stomach issues whenever they go out. I think they're talking about like they heard. I don't eat anything that comes out of a bottle or can, or only a bottle or can because the ice.
Yeah.
I think people still kind of have that old mentality. But again, we've been here 2 years. And obviously, you've been here much longer, and I'm sure there's been a few issues. But I think in general, I think that's a little bit overblown.
Yeah.
People. I think the food, the ice, for the most part, is pretty safe in most areas. I would assume.
It's interesting. I've talked to quite a few doctors because they said, people say they have such and such. They said, well, they didn't get it in Vallarta. They either had it before or they caught it on the plane. I think a lot of people have that fear, and maybe it's the fear that makes them sick.
That's true.
Because the ice, 99% of it is all purchased.
Right.
And so it's purchased from an ice factory. With bottled water, even the garrafones are purchased from. Very few people drink water out of a tap, and they say we're one of the few cities that's safe to drink.
We've heard
water
that, and we're still a little bit hesitant.
Yeah, but even the Mexican homes, they drink bottled water.
Right.
Lettuce and everything. I mean, some of it's hydroponically grown. I think 99.9% of the food produce here is safe.
Yeah.
You do have to watch in seasons for red tides for things like oysters and certain things you have to watch for. But the shrimp doesn't come from our bay.
Yeah,
so
I didn't think so. Everyone always says it, but I didn't think so.
No, the shrimp's coming from probably Mazatlan or Guaymas areas, big shrimp fishing area.
Yeah, and I think I talked about this with another guest of ours. I think what may be an issue, I think because food in the U.S. is so processed and so many chemicals and pumped with so much chemicals, or steroids and everything. I think they come here and maybe not as much. I think their body gets maybe in shock from that. I think that's a personal theory of mine.
The food certainly tastes better here. I mean, I can remember my mom coming in the 80s, and she had never liked cantaloupe. And then she had cantaloupe here, and it's just juicy. Star fruit you get in the States has no juice. You take the star fruit off our trees. We have about 30 types of fruit trees in our yard.
Nice.
So a lot of what we can produce upstairs on the rooftop here, they produce all the herbs for all the cocktails and all the cooking for the restaurant. But you bite into a star fruit that's picked off a tree, and you just juice is coming down it's incredible.
Yeah, I think it's a whole different ballgame when it comes to the fruit, like fruits and veggies here. I think you go to the markets for the most part, it's all very clean. It's probably more organic than it would be like in most grocery stores in the U.S. So I think the food here is wonderful. Whether it's your fruit and veggies, your dishes in restaurants, or your street taco stands.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had it all. We've had issues. I mean, I think even back in the U.S., people have issues. It happens from time to time, but I think there's that, like you said, that fear that people have, and maybe it's that fear, that anxiety that kind of leads to that sickness. So
it could be the tequila also.
it could be. It could be. Yeah.
It's just change. It's not so much that it's the food; it's a change of diet.
Yeah, that's what I feel. It is that change, that people fear sometimes. So food can be an issue, or we talk about going back to monthly spending. I know we kind of went off there. We talked a little bit about food, maybe eating out. So what do you think an average might be, for someone who comes to Puerto Vallarta to live?
gosh, I really couldn't say because I'm not a good example of that. I don't eat out much, not by choice. I love eating out.
Yeah.
It's just, things have happened in my life the last 10, 15 years. I tend to eat at home more.
Oh, okay.
So I would think I could spend, I don't know, per person?
Let's say you have a family of three, right?
Uh-huh.
We have a family of three, so let's stick with that. I think people can kind of get
What
an
do you
average
spend?
on that. In Queretaro, we spend probably about 2,200 to 2,500 a month, give or take. But that's all expenses.
Rent too.
No rent.
Oh, no rent.
Right.
Okay.
We own, but again, that's car insurance, gas. We drive and stuff like that. So that daycare, health care. We're trying to include as much as we can.
Yeah. I probably don't spend that much on three, for three of us, but then, but that's probably a good average. I probably think we probably spend closer to 1,500.
Okay.
So, and that's, a little bit ordering in and a little bit of this and that. And
Sure.
Yeah.
And your daughter, you said, was born and raised here. Did she go when she was here? Was international schools a big thing, or did she just go to local schools?
She started a Mexican kindergarten. Then she went to the American school for up to grade 3. So it's 2 years of grade 1 up to grade 3. Then she went to a Catholic school.
Okay.
And then back to finish at the American school 9 through 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so back then, I know it's very hard to.
Now it's outrageous.
That's what I've heard.
Like now I'm thinking, I don't think my grandkids can afford to go there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I think it's very difficult to, like I said, to compare generations, because that's almost what we're talking about
crazy,
here.
Yeah.
So we spoke to somebody. We did another interview, and they said that they looked into it. They're sending their kids to another international school, private school, whatever you want to call it. But the American school is about $1,000 a month nowadays.
Yeah.
Which
for kindergarten, it's crazy.
And for Mexico, I think they said on average now you're looking at about maybe $200 to $450 a month, which for international schools and private schools back in the U.S. is very reasonable.
Well, when you think of it, so when I paid less than $100 a month for my rent back in the 80s, and I probably didn't spend $10 on food a day.
A day?
A day.
Oh, okay,
that.
right.
I don't think so. I mean, probably $3 to $5 a day on food. That was crazy. You get fish on the stick was less than $1.
Oh yeah. My
rents were as much as it was crazy. I don't think I spent. It was crazy how little I spent.
Well, and that kind of just made me think of another question when you talked about food and spending like $10 a day. Do you remember what was the peso? Because I know there's been a lot of news about that. The peso,
then it
how
was like
fluctuating.
3,000. $3,000. It was crazy. It was like
3,000 pesos to the dollar.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So it was like we had a medium pizza in our restaurant. It was 32,000 pesos. So
yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was that big of a shift.
Well, then it changed. They cut out all the zeros, and then so then it was like, but it was hilarious back then.
Oh, okay.
We're talking like going into the early '90s, and then I don't know what year it was they changed the peso.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember we went to Monterrey once when I was a young child, and I don't know why I remember this, but this was probably mid '80s. I think it was like 10 to 1, but this is like North Mexico. I don't know if it's all the same, but I know now people are starting to worry about, especially people who live here or want to come here. How the peso keeps gaining in power, the U.S. dollar is dropping. Yeah. I know it's a very recent thing that's been happening. Yeah. But have you seen any effect of that?
Well, yeah, because I was talking about that the other day. Someone said, "Oh, things have been so expensive now." I'm going, well, last year in July was 21 to the dollar, 21 pesos to the dollar. If people even if they did the exchange because they priced in the winter at 19 to the dollar, now it's at almost 16 to the dollar.
Right.
So they haven't changed their prices, but now if you're dividing that by dollars, you're like, oh my God, they doubled their prices, but they haven't.
Right.
They haven't raised their prices.
Overall, I haven't seen a big raise in prices. No.
But people are comparing it to the dollar and say, oh my God, I can't eat there. Look at the price. And I'm going, they haven't raised their prices.
Right. And it's still, I said, overall, even at 16, it's still pretty affordable. I think that's pretty average. And I know they're predicting maybe 12 by next year, but who knows what that'll.
Well, I had heard they're going down to 15 by the beginning of the year. Or beginning of July. I hope they don't.
Okay.
Because it is going to affect. People are going to have to change their prices.
Sure.
Because they can't afford.
Right. Yeah. People have to change their prices. I think people who may be living here on very fixed incomes may be affected as well. Because you do hear a lot of stories about that. People coming on Social Security or just retirement, so they have a very set amount of money. I think if it drops down to 12, I think you're going to see a lot of people hurting and possibly be stuck. I don't even know what that might do, what that might do to some people, unfortunately. But I mean, you can't stop the economy. It's good for Mexico, I think, in the overall picture. To have their dollar strengthen.
Yeah. But will the Mexicans, unless they're very wealthy, will the Mexicans be able to travel? Will we lose a lot of who've saved their dollars, the U.S. dollar? A lot of Mexicans get paid, tipped in dollars. Do they save their dollars, and now their dollar doesn't buy them as much? So can they come on vacation? So we may see a lot less even foreigner, like nationals travel.
National travel. Well, yeah. Again, that's something, a different perspective they didn't even think about, right? Again, how that may affect, especially workers who do live in very touristy areas, like I said, who get paid in dollars. Yeah, that would also affect them. Yeah, definitely. So I think that could, time will tell.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know they're predicting 12, but predictions are one thing and reality is another.
And then they'll do like they did in Europe. They'll take away the international exchanges and make a euro. We can't make a dollar equal peso. That's never going to happen.
Right.
Because that means you have to change the Canadian dollar too.
Oh,
really, kind of mixed together there.
Well, yeah, I know, and again, I don't know how well you keep up with it. I don't. I just only, again, this is all things I've heard, that Mexico is thinking about joining that BRICS movement. I don't know if you heard about that or
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, again, I heard they were invited to their forum.
Wow.
I don't know whether they accepted or again, what the ramifications. I mean, if anybody out there knows that better than I do, because again, that is not my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Let us know what that might mean for the dollar, for the Mexican peso, if they were to join that BRICS, because that's a total different. That's beyond me.
Well, and I don't know. I mean, again, maybe what's happening now is very good for us, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, of course.
I don't know enough about it. I definitely don't have money in the stock market because I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. Okay. So, maybe just kind of winding down a little bit here. I mean, so far we've had some, great information. We appreciate it. One of the things I had mentioned to you was if you want to give any advice, to people who may be considering moving to Mexico, Puerto Vallarta or Mexico in general. What advice might that be?
Well, I get asked that a lot,
Okay.
and then I also get asked like, what do you think of Mexico over, say, Portugal?
Oh,
because a lot of people are looking to retire, and where's the best place for U.S. or Canadians to spend their money? So, we've had some people, and then we have clients too that go back and forth between Costa Rica and Vallarta, and yes, they can do a lot more with their money in Costa Rica, but then you don't at a certain age have the conveniences. We have great medical in Puerto Vallarta now.
Okay.
We have a lot of pluses. I mean, that's probably, when you asked before, probably one of the biggest pluses. I mean, we didn't have much medical before. Now we have great medical and great variety. And also for children, we have swimming lessons, music classes. We have a children's orchestra now. We have a lot of things we didn't even have 20 years ago. So we have a lot more to be offered kids. Languages. People always tell my daughter, oh, but you are deprived growing up in Mexico. And she says, how was I deprived? I speak 3 languages. I have other languages I can also learn. We have so much here. And when you look at it, I mean, some of the top chefs in the world are Mexican. Some of the most brilliant children going to the United States and going to colleges are 13 and 14 years old, and they're going to college already in the United States and working for NASA, and they're Mexican. I mean, I think Mexico we're not a third world country at all. And we have so much to offer the world.
Yeah.
And your question was?
Advice if they're moving here. that was a great tangent, though.
To move here. How did I get sidetracked? Because it's all about moving here. How did you word the question again?
Things to consider. So, if someone wanted to move, to Mexico or consider coming here, whether Mexico or Puerto Vallarta, what advice would you give, for people who are getting ready to move?
Well, I think you have to think of a lot. And so it's not just the fact that I love Puerto Vallarta. We are also a very safe location when it comes to weather.
Yes.
Weather's getting worse across the world.
Sure.
And in the 41 years, I've seen 1 hurricane and 1 earthquake. And we've had some minor things or scares, but nothing's happened.
Sure.
So I think that's also something to consider. The fact that medical is very important. I would hope that everybody that comes here has some form of health care.
Yes.
If you're young enough, you can get good health care in Mexico.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Really good health care in Mexico. But a lot of people coming retired that have no health care or have moved here, say, as I did, and never bothered to get health care. It was very inexpensive to get health care. And I've had health care in Mexico now for probably 39 years. and I'm very happy. I'm covered anywhere in the world, and
Okay.
I don't think I pay a lot. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's and it's good advice. I think sometimes the advice would be there, just don't let the fear hold you back.
Yes.
Like I think there is a lot of fear, whether that's media induced or whatever about Mexico. But I think a lot of that is just it's not really it's unfounded for the most part. I think like I said, Mexico is very safe. It's very affordable. It has great healthcare. I mean, in Querétaro, it's also very top notch.
Yeah.
And very inexpensive. I go see the specialist. It's like 700 pesos.
Yeah.
And that's again without insurance. So that's to me that's great. So again, don't be scared. Mexico is for everybody.
Yeah, it really is, and there's a lot of pluses here. I think it's a great place to raise children. I think my daughter is leaps and bounds ahead of many of the kids her generation.
Sure.
Because she was offered so much, and she was offered, I think, a freedom that a lot of kids in the States don't have or don't feel, or maybe their parents don't give them, but not in the sense that she took advantage of it. I think for whatever reason, I don't know how she turned out so good. She just had
great parents.
Yeah, well, but she also had to work from an early age. I think that's a big difference. She had responsibilities, and I think a lot of kids today don't have responsibilities.
True.
So I don't know. But there's Mexico's very welcoming to children. Mexico loves children.
Oh yeah.
And it is really a safe place.
Right. Again, so I know we're speaking generationally here, but with our son, Louie, it's the same thing. I would just kind of reiterate your point. He gets introduced to so much, and one of the things that we always talk about was back in the States. When I was younger and I was a kid, 4, 5, 6 into middle school, everybody went outside and played and lived a little bit dangerously, I guess, if you want to call it, especially by today's standards. But you don't see that now in the U.S. We bring our son here. He plays in the neighborhood. He has so many friends. They go outside. They play. It kind of just feels like the way it was back in the U.S. back when we were younger. Right? I guess I'm maybe assuming I'm about your daughter's age, somewhere in that range. So she probably grew up around the same time, and there was a little bit more freedom, like you said.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure it was just even more so here in Mexico.
Creativity. So I remember kids playing on the street just around the corner here before there was a lot of traffic, and they had a bolillo. I don't know how long it lasted, but it was like really hard, and they were using it as a bat. And they had fun.
Yeah.
And it was just little simple things. I remember once getting the kids bow and arrow. They were kids' bows and arrows, but the kids played with them, and it was like fun. It was simple, and the kids just had fun.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of kids in the States, it's not that it's too much TV, but everything's too much phones now.
Phones, yeah, social media, computers. It is a new world.
New world.
Since the invention of the computer, if you want to go back that far. But yeah, it's definitely things that we never experienced. Your daughter included them. And it's just you see it. I think it's pretty evident. Living in the States and coming back here, even little things like birthday parties. Just speaking to a personal experience. Back in our neighborhood in Queretaro, one of our kids had there's been 2 birthday parties, and all the kids come out, and they all come over, and they do the piñata and the pin the tail on the donkey and stuff like that. There's kind of that sense of community still. We had my son's birthday was back in the States. I had mentioned we moved back there for a few months. His birthday kind of fell in those few months, and he was in daycare for about 5 months before his birthday was. We had a birthday, invited everyone in the daycare. Nobody showed up. Wow. Like I couldn't imagine that when we were younger.
Yeah.
If people got invited to a birthday party, they went.
Yeah.
Kids, friends, classmates. That's just the way it was. Yeah, and we kind of thought, okay, maybe is it a one-off? But then we talked to the guy who rented a little bouncy house, and the gentleman who the renter, when he was taking it back, he mentioned, no, it's actually, I kind of hear that story quite a bit. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
What happened? So such a weird shift in the way people approach.
I said my daughter rides horses. She wanted, as a form of just release, could she ride horses? And she was already in her probably late 20s or maybe early 30s, and I said, sure, if you want to do it, we'll find a parent.
Why not?
So now there's like 7 equestrian ranches here.
Oh, wow.
And you can start kids as young as 3 riding horses and teaching them how to discipline. But when we go there, the kids are happy. They play. They never want to go home. When they're either riding bareback, when they're done riding training, or they're playing with each other, or they're racing around and jumping the horse hurdles by themselves without the horse. But the kids learn how to groom the horses, and I look at them, and they're so nice. They're such nice kids, and so friendly, and so sweet. and they're learning, and then they have these chores. Like they don't think of it as a chore. They're braiding the horse's hair. They're doing all these things, learning to groom the horses. And these are young kids, and it's just it's just nice that they have these options here now for kids.
Right, right. No, I agree. So overall, great place to raise a family. A lot of things for kids to do. Yeah. Again, going back to the last little thing, don't be if you're thinking about moving here, don't be scared.
No,
don't get over that fear. Yeah. There's lots of wonderful things that Puerto Vallarta, Mexico has to offer to everybody, all families.
Everybody. And for the older people, there's tons of charities. A lot of older people who may not have grandkids, or their grandkids are growing up, they want to do something, a lot of them have pets. They have so many things. You can go walk somebody else's pet. You can go to the shelter, the dog shelter, pet shelter, and play with the animals, walk the animals. There's a lot of things. And there's scholarships for children. There's lots of things for people to get involved in if they want to. And there's also things like the cribbage group and the mahjong group and all the other things. There's bingo. There's, they have things like people don't realize how much we have here. We have everything.
Right. I mean, it's equal footing, if not surpassing, the U.S. in a lot of standards. I think. Yeah. I'd say maybe. I would argue maybe a few years back, a few decades back, maybe not so much, but I think Mexico is definitely, like you said, it's not a third world country. It's definitely gaining and developing. Like I said, I think somebody mentioned it's now like the 13th richest nation. It's really much more developed than people think.
I think another thing we have to mention is that there is care facilities now here as well. So as people are getting older and maybe one spouse is getting ill or has something, they do have some very nice care facilities here that aren't expensive. And so that is another thing that people have to consider.
Right, because I think that is a big population that is coming. The retirees, and so of course as retirees get older, it is something that's very important to them. And it's good to know because they may not even have considered that. When coming here, they might come here think, oh, it's an expensive medical care, but that's a whole other aspect of as you get older, you need that special care, right? No, absolutely. So I appreciate the time, and I know that's great information. I know one last thing I had asked, and we're gonna walk around because it's a great gallery. That's how we first came here. We just walked by. There's so much neat art here, and it'd take us forever to look at everything. Yeah. So I asked Claire to maybe pick 3 pieces that she is fond of, likes. So we're gonna take a real quick walk around, maybe let her explain them a little bit, talk about the artist if you'd like, and we'll kind of go from there. So sit tight, and we'll be right back.
So this is an artist. I have a lot of his work in my collection. I always loved stone. My father split stones from the age of, we watched him split stones from my age of 2. So he was going to make my mother a stone house. I've always been passionate about stone. This piece is bronze and stone. This artist, all his pieces are one of a kind, but they're also 2-sided. So this is a piece about the sun and the moon. And this is, so it has the planets, but also a lot of this artist's work has molds of his grandmother's doilies that were crocheted, and he would press that into the wax and leave an impression. So a lot of the pieces have things that were actually crocheted, and then he's added pieces to it. So on the back side of this, you'll see the constellations and the fact that this is the moon, and this is the sun on this side, but here's the constellations. So, I mean, and always his side. So this is carved a little differently than the front, and all his pieces are that way. And then here again, you have the sun. So this is about the sun and the moon. This particular piece is by another artist that I've collected for years. And this is based on the Velázquez Meninas. So they're very crisp hair, the bodice is tight, they're crinolines. But it's also, his pieces have a twist. So this key actually opens this gate, And it is about my passion is my prison. So like the chastity belt is also the prison. So it's just one of these great pieces that it's also mixed media, which is great. And both of these were Guadalajara artists. And she's just very special, even with all the dust. So this is another one, an artist in my collection. I have represented most of these artists from 20 to 25 years. This is Israel Cepeda, who just returned from painting his 11th mural in Sardinia, Italy. Every piece is unique. He makes no copies, no prints, doesn't repeat a theme. So sometimes the pieces are very political, sometimes they're very religious, but it's basically representing life, whether we like it or not. And the credit card series began because he had 3 teenagers and tried to get a phone for his studio, and the phone company said, nope, sorry, can't get it unless you have a credit card. And he said, this is ridiculous. Why would I need a credit card to get a second phone? So he decided to do a series of 13 paintings based on the corruption of credit cards and the banks and how they force us to spend money on credit cards. And it's been a very interesting, conversational, a little bit political, but some of my favorite work. And there was only 13 credit cards done.
There's another one, right? Yeah.
There's one right there, yeah. And I'll show you one more. This is the very first credit card he did. And so it doesn't have the framework like the other credit cards do. But it's based on kind of tongue-in-cheek. He goes, who do you think are the most famous women in the United States that people remember? And it's always Elizabeth Taylor and, and Marilyn Monroe. So who are the 2 most famous people in Mexico? Frida Kahlo and the Virgin of Guadalupe.